You're listening to the Cynic Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cynic.
And you are listening to episode 42 of the Cynic Radio Podcast, and I'm your host, Cynic. And with me, as always, a man who doesn't understand why they call it Hamburger Helper, because it does just fine on its own, my friend and yours, Igri. Jules and Ryan are joining us again this week as we talk about Game of Thrones, episode 3, The Queen's Justice. Because we are the Cynic Radio Podcast, and we are just as disturbed as you are about the three-eyed raven watching us all in the shower. Miss out on that latest viral video? Didn't see the most recent trailer for the next movie coming out? In the dark about what the biggest song in America is? We've got you covered. Every week we scour the internet and look for the latest and greatest. This is What's Up.
What's up for me this week, coming this Friday, August 4th to a Netflix near you. Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. The cult classic Wet Hot American Summer just kind of blew up all over Netflix, even though it was a theatrical release initially. They did first day of camp last year, and now we're getting a 10-year reunion after the first camp ended. This looks like a lot of fun, and it's a loaded cast. Go check it out, because you're going to be able to see Amy Poehler, Elizabeth Banks, Paul Rudd, and just about everybody else. I think the only one that's not showing up is Bradley Cooper. It's going to be a good time on Netflix on August 4th. Wet Hot American Summer, 10 years later. That's what's up.
Hey guys, my What's Up this week is for the trailer of season 6 of Vikings that was released at Comic-Con last week. It's looking to be an epic battle between brothers. If you aren't familiar with Vikings, definitely worth checking out. My husband and I first gave it a watch when we were looking for something to satisfy our Game of Thrones craving after we had finished binge watching it for the season last year. Admittedly, this is not Game of Thrones, but it's an amazing show nonetheless. I'm not going to give out any plot points or what it's kind of looking to go on this season in case you decide to check it out. But based on the trailer for the new season, it looks like they may be coming up with Game of Thrones style budget, which is pretty cool. I highly recommend watching this either on the History Channel or you can get it on Amazon Prime or iTunes. The new season's scheduled to come out November 29th, 2017, so right at Thanksgiving. And I recommend checking out the trailer that's on YouTube, Vikings Season 6. That's what's up.
What's up for me this week? Well, it's the listeners of this show who've gotten behind my grassroots movement for Falling Bell Awareness Month. People everywhere are being taken out at alarming rates due to these ringing menaces. Now, I propose a total ban of bells across the board, everywhere. But if we can't get that done, at least we need to get them made out of a lighter, more forgiving material in case tragedy strikes, such as memory foam or possibly cheese. Now, I know you're going to ask, Cynic, how will they ring? In fact, they won't. We can pre-record the ring to save lives. Britney Spears has made a career out of doing it. Help us put an end to this tragedy today and show your support by going to TeePublic and ordering your very own Cynic Radio Podcast t-shirt, and I will personally send you a brass-colored ribbon to commemorate this month. So for this week, our listeners and Flying Bell Awareness Month, you're What's Up.
My What's Up for the week is street artist Tom Bob, who's been running around New York turning benign structures like poles and lamps and electricity boxes and turning them into works of art that are really unique and really interesting. I won't do any justice to this trying to describe them, but I will say if you go on to Bored Panda and look it up, the article was posted on July 27th, you'll see some awesome works of art by this artist. I'm a fan of street art. I think it's really, when done right, it can be really cool and fun. And this is one of the more unique and interesting forms of it that I've seen in a while. So check it out. Again, Tom Bob, and you can find the article on Bored Panda.
And it's time for episode 42 of the Cynic Radio Podcast Vegan Brief Recap. Fine, the Dornets are down, but we still have the Tyrells, right? Right? Arya heads home wolfless, Jon heads to Dragonstone, and Theon is now Westeros' answer to Michael Phelps. Swim for your life. The ship is covered in bears. Could we underestimate the unholy alliance of Cersei and Euron anymore? And this all leads us to episode 3, The Queen's Justice. The Bastard of Winterfell, the Dwarf of Casterly Rock have a pleasant reunion. So much has happened to both these fan favorites since we last saw them. Ryan, how far do you think they come, and do you think they can actually trust each other?
I mean, it's kind of insane when you think about where they started. Having rewatched the entire show from season 1, it is pretty incredible. And it's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that it would have come to this kind of watching episode 1, but it is pretty great to finally see them come together. I think it's been something that's been anticipated for a really long time, and I really liked liked the way that they allowed the meeting to kind of breathe. Like, that was a long scene. I don't know if it was maybe 15, 20 minutes, but it allowed them to kind of interact in a way that felt a little real, and they both were kind of trying to get their points across, but it didn't feel like a situation where it was kind of being shoved down our throats or kind of forced, like, look, it's Jon and Daenerys, they finally meeting. It kind of felt real and felt I thought it was a great payoff. Yeah,
there's a kinship between the two of them on screen that people might not understand if you didn't read the books, because they're a lot closer, and they're closer friends in the books than they appear to be on screen. There's more familiarity. There's more trust. He's just basically, they're kind of throwing it out there like, oh, we're going off a gut feeling that he's trustworthy, where they kind of made more headway in the books to get to know each other.
I think honestly, Tyrion is a big reason that Jon Snow went. Yes, he needs Dragonglass. Yes, he was beckoned by Daenerys. But if he hadn't had that previous relationship with Tyrion, he'd have been like, no way, I'm not going. And he went based on that. So I think the scene was great, and the Onion Knight, you can't go wrong.
Oh, he's amazing in this scene.
But it was just set up very well.
Yeah, and that is a good point, because you are right. Like, I think my own while watching it, I did get the feeling that, were they that fond of each other? Because it seemed like it was more of Tyrion kind of not bullying him, but kind of making, using Jon as like the butt of his jokes for a lot of the time when they were together. And you're right, like the books, they definitely established a stronger kind of bond, where the show maybe not as strong, but I think the anticipation of Daenerys meeting Jon was something that was really more there. But in the back of my mind, I kind of thought, are they that fond of each other, to kind of the way that they greeted each other? That maybe didn't feel great. But it worked.
I feel like something to always remember about that relationship is Jon pointed out Tyrion was the only one who told him what the wall was, where he was headed. Everyone else kind of made it out to be something that it really wasn't. And Tyrion was the one who let him know what it was. So I did get a good vibe from their relationship in season 1. I did not know about the books being more developed in their relationship, but I definitely feel like in the Game of Thrones, anytime two people that meet up and it's a friendly kind of home feeling, if you will, I always feel a little bit of relief when somebody like one of the Starks sees somebody that is familiar to them, that isn't trying to kill them or whatever.
Well, IG, there goes our weapons. And there goes our boats. What exactly do you pay for valet parking nightly at Dragonstone? And what do you tip at Dothraki?
2 chickens and a prostitute from that town outside of the wall.
Molestown?
Oh,
No.
yeah, Molestown.
Dothraki are not picky.
Skankland.
Dothraki are not picky. They'll take whatever women they can get, especially after coming across the poison sea. They're happy to see any women, because as far as I've seen, the only 2 women that are at Dragonstone right now are Daenerys and Missandei, and I don't think the Dothraki get any dibs on either one of them. So, if you bring a chick from Molestown, you're ready to go. So 2 chickens and a chick from Molestown, you're good to go.
She's a lot smarter than she's letting on. Well, she's letting on. An awkward but honest conversation with Tyrion. Dude, I totally didn't bang your sister. Everything is cool, but it's true. Sansa is letting on. Jules, as a mother and a woman, where do you see Sansa at this part of the story?
Well, I don't really want to get too far into the episode yet, but I definitely think Jon is right. I think she is not holding her voice back. I think she knows what she's gone through. I think she's finally getting both her feet on the ground, and she's feeling some strength, and she's asserting that strength whenever they have meetings with everybody. And she's letting him know when she doesn't agree with him. And I'm feeling pretty good about where she's headed as far as having the strength to speak up for herself and to show that she's not some little girl that, is just new to the world and opening her eyes about how the world is. But she also has Littlefinger in her ear. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out, because he seems to be offering her some Interesting advice.
See, I think kind of the opposite. I think she's able to be manipulated still because I think she's still 17 years old, and she has had horrible things happen to her, but she hasn't been allowed to mature. And her mother was taken away so quickly, her father was taken away so quickly, her other siblings were taken away so quickly that she hasn't had the time to just be a kid and grow into a role where you have to. I mean, she wasn't put in a Lyanna Mormont situation because she had to go right into I gotta be Lordess or Mistress or whatever of Bear Island. Sansa just kind of was thrown from person to person like she was a doll and beat regardless of where she ended up. And I think that's causing some problems because while she does make good points sometimes, she kind of yells them out like a little brat. And that's the problem I have with Sansa. I think that she's smart, and I love the character, and I think it's written appropriately for a 16 or 17-year-old girl. But she is a 16 or 17-year-old girl who hasn't really had the responsibility thrown on her in a way that is responsible.
Well, it's a good point, Ig, because even though they had that talk in the premiere where we've got to show a unified front, we can't be enemies, you can't put me down. Even in the last episode, she was still objecting when he said he was headed to Dragonstone. She's still, what are you doing? You can't do this. You're leaving your people. So she really hasn't learned from that conversation she had with Jon that, it's okay to have your opinion, but your opinion needs to be voiced not in front of the whole court.
I agree, but I don't think it's coming, in my opinion, I don't think it's coming off like a young brat. I think it's coming off like I demand to be heard too. I deserve to be heard. And that's where I think Littlefinger is giving her that sort of, emboldened spirit.
Well, to me, and seeing two girls go from little girls to women, I don't see it as a brat thing. I do see that there is a slight bit of immaturity there, but I see a woman coming into her own, where she finally has a mind of her own, an opinion of her own, and she realizes she has a voice. It may be inappropriate timing, but she does have a voice, and at points she does have very valid points. So Ryan, weapons check, boats check, dragon drive-by check. Do you think the dragon drive-by might have been for effect, maybe possibly pre-planned, or just a happy coincidence?
I guess it depends. I think a happy coincidence that was pretty well written into it because I was caught just as off guard as he was. That must have been a shock. The whole situation must have been a shock for Jon and Davos. Coming from the north and what they've been through to see that. There was almost a sense of wonder, shock, awe that I think he played really, really well. And I think, that scene worked. Again, it worked on me. Like when I saw when the dragon flew over, I was like, holy crap, what's that? So I think that was a great little scene and a great setup for this not being, anything near what he was expecting.
So Ryan, let me ask you one question. When that dragon went by, did you pee a little? Just a little? You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Jon peed at least a little.
Oh, yeah.
The dragon goes over your head and you've only ever heard about him in a story. And all of a sudden this 100-foot long beast just kind of flaps over your head.
Although he has seen White Walkers, so I mean.
Walkers, not flyers.
I will return, dear Spider. I have to die in this strange country just like you. Varys delivers the world's kindest and respectfulest GTFO to the Red Lady. Why does the Master of Whispers distrust her so? Is it the fact that he knows her whole story, or the fact that he knows very little to nothing about her?
And that's the question, honestly, because I'm not sure that he knows anything other than she was tailing around with Stannis, the one true king. I don't know that he knows about the ghost baby. I don't know that he knows that he burned his daughter. I don't know that he knows any of those things. And I think that would be cause enough for Varys to be like, you need to leave, because if I don't know you, you shouldn't be here, because that's way too creepy. But it could be quite the opposite, where he literally knows everything. I find that a little harder to believe based on how he was treating her. Just the keys in the conversation seem to point at he doesn't know much other than, she's a priestess of the Lord of Light. So I think it's more the prior, where he didn't know anything. And you got to go.
My thought, he distrusts people like magic, right? Like that's part of his, part of why he is what he is. And So my thought was maybe he knows her reputation, and he knows that she has been able to do things that are beyond natural, that are completely supernatural, and that he doesn't want her anywhere near. He doesn't want her near him because he knows that she has some crazy magical powers. And I thought he was okay with the other Red Priestesses when they were in Essos, so it doesn't really it didn't make sense that he disliked a Red Priestess, and he hasn't really let on that he knows much about her. So my thought maybe he knows enough to know that she has power, and he doesn't like that, and he wants her as far away as he can get her.
Well, Jules, if we're gonna whip out our titles and measure them, it looks like Jon Snow's gonna come up a little short. Do you love how Davos stuck up for him during that meeting? And is there a better second in the land?
No, first of all, he did amazing. And I just really wanted Jon and Davos to look at each other and actually say, the fuck? when they started reading off all of her titles. And Davos just being like, here's Jon Snow. Oh, yeah. He's the king of the north.
I saw a meme today that here's Jon Snow. He has nice hair.
Yeah, he has nice hair. It was perfect because it does. It's just sort of like a shout out to the ridiculousness of the amount of titles she has. Even last night when I was watching it, I'm like, this is just going on way too long.
I love the scene. I love that Davos's kind of he seems like he'll do anything for Jon, and he really is on Jon's side, and his loyalty is amazing. And then I love the way that it's played, where Jon is constantly looking back at Davos, like he really trusts his counsel, and you can tell like Jon doesn't know what the hell is going on, and every few seconds he looks back like, what should I do? Should I nod yes? Should I nod no? And so really like it plays really well because you can tell that Davos is loyal to death for Jon. He'd give his life for him. But you could also tell that Jon genuinely trusts Davos's counsel and trusts him and needs him. And I really love that. That was one of the best parts of, very subtle, but one of the best parts of the episode was how they really played off each other beautifully this episode.
Was anyone able to keep a good eye on the Onion Knight through that whole intro, though? Did he nod off for a moment? Because I thought he did. I mean, it was a long intro.
It was long.
His looks during that episode, he really nailed it. His looks during that episode were just amazing. He did an excellent job acting the part.
And what's the protocol for adding shit to your name? Do you get to just say, the liker of tacos and, the drinker of Diet Coke? I mean, can you add those things to your name if that's something you do? Because, I mean, it's just like, hey, it was raining when I was born, so now I'm Stormborn, and this was happening, so now I did that. Khaleesi the Great Grassy, because I was surrounded by grass when this dude nailed me. I mean, come on. How crazy does this have to get? I mean, I saw a list on BuzzFeed today where they started adding things to Jon Snow's name when they were calling him, the White Wolf, the Lord of the First Men of the Free Folk, 998th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, the Resurrected. Sure, we can add all kinds of stuff, and then add and finally Knower of Nothing. Why not?
Right?
I'd be fine with being Lord Commander, but if you're going to call me the 998th, I think I would have waited 2 out, no matter how old I had to be before they gave me the job. I'd at least want to be the 1,000th Lord Commander. Ryan, were you slightly disappointed that this meeting that everyone could not wait for kind of devolved into a schoolyard argument over oath and title?
Yes and no. I won't say I'm disappointed. I think there were huge expectations for a very long time. We knew this meeting was going to happen eventually, and so but it was kind of expectations that nothing could meet. It's kind of like our expectations for the first episode of this season. Like it's so highly anticipated, but realistically, what could we get? It was going to be set up, and it's the same thing with this meeting. What are we going to get? We're going to get them squabbling over titles and Daenerys, wanting him to bend the knee and him not wanting to, and him needing help with White Walkers. So I think what was more important was how the scene was played, which I think was played really well. And I think the acting was great. And I think the dialogue was great. And I think there was the right amount of tension, and then levity when needed. And, not only between Jon and Daenerys, but having Tyrion there and Missandei and Davos, they all really had a role in the scene. So I think overall, if you were just to say they meet and they squabble, fine, it's disappointing. But if you really look at the overall, how the scene plays, it did what it had to do. And especially given the circumstances, I don't think that we could have expected anything better. This is what it was going to be, and I think really when you look at the nuance, there's just the little details in this episode. I think that scene played beautifully.
Well, really, if it went the easiest way, path of least resistance, he'd have bent the knee, and wouldn't that have changed everyone's opinion of Jon Snow? Wouldn't he have looked weaker if he would have done such a thing? And that's, the kind of pish-pash back and forth and everything really worked because, he's like, I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to cause any rift, but that's not why I'm here. If you're not beholden to the things that your ancestors did, then why should I be beholden to the ones that technically I'm not even one of my ancestors did? It worked.
I had a few points, but I definitely like this scene because I feel like he was saying, I'm not going to bow to you because it's stupid, because what we're dealing with is bigger than all of us. And the fact that you're asking me to bow to you is you're only going to be, when he pointed out, you're going to be a ruler of dead people. I can bow to you. I could do all this, but ultimately it means absolutely nothing because we're all going to die if we don't just, keep it moving and try to figure out how to get over these White Walkers. But there was a running theme that I had a thought on. I don't know if you guys caught this either. It seems like there's like this theme where they keep pointing out that people are not their father's mistakes. People do not have to, how like last week with the Karstark children and the Umber children where Jon had, given them a pass and said, I'm not holding you to your father's mistakes. It was very much a callback to the same conversation that Daenerys was having with Jon, because she's saying, I think he said to her, I don't hold you responsible for your father's mistakes. Or she said, forgive me for those or something. I just thought there seems to be kind of like this running theme there. And then at another point during the same episode, Tyrion points this out again about being held responsible for our father's mistakes. I just wasn't sure if there was a reason this sort of keeps coming back up.
Well, most of their fathers were evil, power-driven maniacs where the kids seem to be a little bit more open-minded to change. And, she even said that she wanted to leave the world a better place. But that kind of brings me to my next point. On behalf of House Targaryen, I ask your forgiveness for his crimes he committed against your family. And I ask you not to judge the daughter by the sins of the father. IG, maybe we could have led with that instead of bend a knee, sucker. Yeah. And if you were Jon, what would you have done if she changed the order of which she did that?
Well, now if she changed the order, maybe things get a little bit different. I'm in the camp that hopes that they don't start stripping in front of each other, because I know Targaryens have a history of doing that kind of stuff and sleeping with each other to keep the bloodline pure. I'm in the camp that says, please don't let these two have sex. Yeah, please don't let them. I mean, it's almost like a Luke and Leia situation. Please don't let them. That would be bad. But he may have been a little more willing to kind of play along nice if she'd have gone the other order. I mean, I'm glad that she said it. I'm glad that she realized that those things were happening. And I'm glad that she took a moment to apologize for them, but it still wasn't her sin. So she's kind of, I can see why she didn't lead, but it still would have been nice.
Jon fills in Dany and her posse about the real war, the undead army, the Night King, the war to the north. Jules, sit yourself down in Dany's throne for a second. Would you have bought any of that?
Well, I think she should buy it because she has dragons, and dragons were, long storied, just sort of urban legends. Or I mean, we knew they existed, but they aren't around anymore. So I think there's something to be said about her walking into a fire and coming out with 3 dragons and not being killed, that she should be believing things that maybe other people would find unbelievable. So that's sort of what I think about that.
I think it's still a little far-fetched because, I think it's been a long time since anyone's seen one. And I think it's been a long time since anyone used it other than anything except boogeyman stories to tell their kids so that they would shape up.
But how long has it been since people saw dragons?
Right, but, there were skulls somewhere. There was proof of dragons. It's not like you keep a White Walker skull on the mantle and say, you see, they're going to come. Because either they're alive or they're gone. There's no in between on a White Walker. There's no skull just laying around. So I could see where the disbelief might come from, but I can't imagine anyone coming there and saying, hey, I just want to mine dragon glass that you're not going to do anything with. So can I take some of this useless junk out of your mountain over here? If someone's going to come that way and be that dedicated to doing something, I might be more tempted to lend a little credence to what they're saying. Because, that just seems loony. Unless all of a sudden there's going to be some hipster dragon scale thing going on where everybody's got to have it. It's the new thing. I don't see any other reason to come and do that. He came a long way at great peril. You got to give him a little bit of leeway.
Daenerys goes full Joffrey, and after the Mother of Dragons lays out the "I believe in me" speech, Davos steps up and lets everyone know who Jon Snow is. Ryan, aren't we all looking for someone to speak about us like Davos does Jon Snow? And what does his devotion not only say about Davos, but it says about Jon?
I think Jon and Dany are kind of two sides of the same coin in some ways. Like they
literally,
they both have inspired a certain amount of dedication and loyalty and awe in large groups of people, and they both have their kind of trusted. They've both been able to get advisors that are really just loyal to them and will do anything for them. In Dany's case, she had Jorah. Before that, she had Barristan Selmy. Not before that, but she had Barristan. She had Jorah. She has Tyrion, and Jon has Davos. And I think Davos, it's amazing how adoringly he speaks about him. Like, I wish I had my own personal Davos to lead me around every day and introduce me to people and help me feel up when I'm feeling down. He's incredibly loyal, and I wonder where it comes from, or if he sees something in Jon that it really inspires that. But we've seen that Jon inspires that in people, and Dany does, and I think it's an interesting parallel between the two. In addition to the Targaryen thing and and everything else, they seem to inspire a certain level of loyalty that no other characters in the show have been able to.
Yeah, but also let's not forget Davos, while the relationships were different, he did hold that kind of same loyalty to Stannis. He certainly always spoke highly of Stannis and was, but very different relationships.
There's a big difference between like and love. Davos honestly loves Jon Snow, and you can see it, not in a Mason Chirrut type of way. Thanks, Linda. But he actually he really thinks highly of the guy. He was loyal to Stannis because Stannis lifted him up out of nothing. But he kind of felt that loyalty fell to the wayside when he saw where Stannis was going, especially after Princess Serene. But you can tell that he really. And here's the $1 million idea. Forget the sex robot. I want a compliment me Davos robot to follow me around. Patent pending. I think that's the million idea. Everybody's self-confidence gets raised, and we all kind of go about our day.
Flea bottom accent and all.
Oh, that's right.
You're going to need to dial it back a little bit from that Davos, though, because he will air all your dirty laundry as well. And you have to give him the look to get him to stop.
Well, that's just it. It's like Ixnay on the resurrection,
Ixnay on stabbed in the heart, Quit it.
No offense, Your Grace, but I don't know you. And it seems like your whole claim to the throne rests upon your father's last name. IG, did Jon just basically give Dany the same speech that Tyrion gave her when they first met? And should he just bend the knee at this point?
I think he's better served to himself not bending the knee at this point. It just seems like at this point it would be just reflex, like, all right, fine, Targaryen, bend the knee, haha, we've perpetuity, yeah, okay, I got you. But at this point, what he's doing is he's portraying himself as a strength, and he's coming from a place of strength. And I think once he's proven right in everything that he's said, I'm not saying that Daenerys is going to end up needing to bend a knee to him. I'm saying that they will see more eye to eye, and she will understand everything that's going on. The name is important, but the honest truth to that is even if you're holding a name, if that name was overthrown, that doesn't give you rightful heir to the throne because it was overthrown by a new name. And technically, an usurper is sitting on the throne. So if there's a Baratheon around, which technically there is, although it's a Baratheon bastard, he's got the rightful heir to the throne.
Yeah, but you can't get that guy out of the boat.
He's got to row, man. Row's got to happen.
Euron has her. Yeah, I wrote crew for Harvard. Euron has her. I couldn't save her. I tried. You wouldn't be here if you tried. Jules, it's obvious to everyone that Theon cut bait and swam. But as his lead supporter on the podcast, where does he go from here?
What?
Theon.
Am I his lead supporter?
You are absolutely Theon's lead supporter. Every time Ryan says we should torture him more or just peck out one of his eyes, you're like, no, what about Theon? So where do you think he should go from here?
All right. I guess if you're putting it in those sort of terms, I guess I'm his lead supporter. I don't know where he's going to go because obviously he's being pulled up onto a Ironborn boat, but they have zero respect for him. So I just think the only thing he can do right now, he has got to figure out some way to redeem himself through the eyes of Dany, through the eyes of his crew around him. I'm not sure what it is that he's going to be able to do at this point, unless he knows some sort of weaknesses about Euron that have yet to be revealed that he's going to be able to, use as a defense against him. Because right now Euron's coming up, looking pretty good right now. So that's the only thing I can foresee Theon being able to do to redeem himself right now.
You're saying he might know about an unknown peanut allergy or something?
Something. There could be something. You don't know.
That's part of my rant last show. I have to be honest with you. This is making me kind of hard, Ryan. Has it become painfully obvious to you that the people of King's Landing just want to yell, boo, and throw shit at other people?
That's their
like
jobs.
It's kind of like a medieval Twitter.
Seriously.
They do seem pretty ridiculous and very they have no memory, it appears. I don't get it. I'd like to think, obviously we're not getting the nitty gritty about what's going on in King's Landing amongst the people and who's spreading the message. But I would like to think Cersei was good about spreading messages when she needed to, when she needed the Faith Militant, she was able to use them to her advantage. So my hope is that basically she spread the message that, look, there's, here's this foreigner coming, like the message she gave to the Lords. There's a foreigner coming with the Dothraki army and Unsullied, and they're going to try to kill all of us, and we need to stop them. And my hope is that message got out and the people at King's Landing are scared, and that this was a huge victory for them, and they greeted Euron like a king. And I hope that that's why, and that they were happy that there's got to, think about that situation. If you're on the verge of war and a brutal, possible horrific death, and then you find that your side has won a major, huge victory, you would be happy. You would be in the streets screaming, at least for whatever amount of time it would be. So, that's my hope, is that Cersei was able to get the message out, and the people are just excited that we won something. We're okay. We're not dead yet. And maybe there's a chance to survive dragons and Dothraki and Unsullied and everything.
What do you think, IG? Are they just trolling us?
The part that kind of questions me is, I don't remember if it was this week or last week, but somebody was up at Winterfell counting grain storage.
That's
right?
this week.
Saying how much did they have? How long could they go on the food that they have? Meanwhile, at King's Landing, they're literally just throwing it at people. I mean, do they have that kind of food to be doing it if the long winter is coming? I mean, isn't food going to run a little bit short? It just, and I want to know about the merchants. I sometimes when they keep talking about all these runoff shows, can they do like a half-hour comedy series on this show about like a Game of Thrones merchant that just sells tomatoes to people to throw?
What are we doing? Westeros is Pawn Stars?
Yeah, we could do that. That'd work.
That Valyrian seal, that Valyrian sword had a question about $1 million gold, but we can only give you about 6 for it.
You got it. But it seems weird that, and and you hit it right on the head. Like, whoever we march down the walk of shame, you know, the only thing that was missing was some chick with a bell. They need to re-bring that in. I mean, anytime you're going to walk somebody down here, look what we have. Somebody's got to be walking back with a bell yelling shame. I don't care if they're wearing the habit or not, but somebody's got to be there doing their job. So there was a missed opportunity in this episode.
I honestly identify with Cersei because I feel that way every time I walk into work. I feel like there's just somebody with a bell behind me as I walk to the time clock. Shame, shame. This is the way you're going to spend 8 hours. Shame. I gave you what no other man could. Side glance at Jaime. Justice for your murdered daughter. IG, if Jaime hadn't lost a hand, do you think Euron would be so cavalier in his taunting?
Yeah, I do, because some people, that's just who they are. And I think if Ramsay had been standing in the throne room at any point, he'd have been just like Ramsay always is. He'd have said whatever he says, however he says it, consequences be damned. Because Jaime is a proper Lannister. I mean, yeah, he was Kingsguard and gave up his right to titles and lands and everything, apparently, but he still portrays himself openly in front of people in a certain way. And that's the thing, because, I mean, he was trying to have a very easy way to kill Ned way back in season 1 until one of the other gold cloaks stabbed him in the leg. And he's like, now I can't do anything because it's not clean and I got to walk away. In front of people where it can be seen, he's not going to do anything. So that guy could stand there and wave his dick at him, and I don't think he'd do anything about it.
I think that's a good point. I think Jaime's a little bit older and wiser now, too, to make impulsive reactionary moves onto somebody. He knows how to handle being taunted and kind of roll with it a little bit more now, I guess.
When we get a chance to speak as brothers, if you have any advice for me, I mean, does she like it rough? Maybe a finger in the bum? Jules, is this a bit of poetic justice? Euron's taunting of Jaime, since he took so much joy into doing it to Ned Stark?
Yeah, but that's a little bit different kind of taunting. I mean,
is it though?
I mean, he wasn't taunting him about having sex with Catelyn and what she likes.
He normally taunted Ned about his honor.
Yeah.
And that if you want to hit home, you hit where it means the most.
True.
And to Ned, that was honor. And to Jaime, that's most definitely Cersei.
Yeah, definitely karmic justice there, as far as Jaime's concerned, I suppose.
Does anybody else guess that this is the worst kept secret in Westeros because everybody pokes that bear? I mean,
absolutely.
So everybody knows that Joffrey and Tommen both were they didn't really belong on the throne because they weren't Robert's kids, and now Cersei's sitting here, and everybody knows that Jaime's banging her.
And seriously, how did Euron hear about that? He was off in the middle of the ocean somewhere. So really, everybody does know this secret.
There must be a newsletter flown out by Crow once in a while.
So Ryan, Queen Jigsaw has Ilaria and the last sand stake chained to the dungeon face-to-face, inches from each other. And she gives her daughter the long kiss, which was the same poison they used to kill Marcella. You're an admitted fan of an eye for an eye, but was Cersei's actions just?
Oh my God.
Ryan is
coming back to bite you.
Wow. Yeah, they were pretty cruel. Again, I gotta stay consistent. If you're gonna kill someone's daughter, then you gotta be willing to, then you've opened yourself up to that happening. I think the way Cersei's going about it is exceptionally cruel, but you can't help but. I mean, Cersei's awful, but just kind of brilliant. I mean, the fact that she's it's kind of crazy. She stays up all night just thinking of ways, creative ways to kill people.
Ryan, my headphones are off. Did you say it was exceptionally cool or cruel?
No.
Cool. A little bit of both, really. If you think about it.
No, I mean it's pretty creative. I gotta give her credit for that. That's pretty solid. It defies that thought that she's maybe I thought maybe it was gonna be Mountain. Have the Mountain. Kind of what she did to Septa Lena, but no, that was kind of poetic justice for. I mean, look, you live by the poison, you die by the poison, and I think this is a situation where Ilaria, I don't want to say she deserves it, but that's the way this world works, and I kind of kudos to Cersei. I love the scene. I think she played. I mean, she's a great actress, but she plays it beautifully. Like, there's that little moment of humanity when she wants to know why, and I even thought, oh wow, maybe she's gonna give her a chance, and then boom, nope, no, I'm back to being evil, Cersei, and I think it's great. I think she's. In 3 episodes, she's transformed completely what I thought about. I thought she, the whole time I've been saying she's kind of dumb. She doesn't make smart decisions. She's kind of brute forcing stuff, but she's completely changed my thought of her as an adversary for the throne. And I thought the scene was great. And I guess they deserved it.
Yeah, and she has started dressing like she belongs in the WWE. Have you seen the spikes coming out of her shoulders?
Yes.
I'm like, if she shows up in the next Mad Max movie, she belongs. She's supposed to be there.
Well, one of my favorite T-shirts is the Tyrion shirt that I drink and I know things. So I think Cersei's would be I drink and I think about torturing people. It's what I do. The Lannisters owe the bank a lot of gold, and the Lannisters always pay their debts. But IG, do slaves or Dothraki or dragons? The Queen channels her inner Tywin and shuts the sharp-tongued banker down in yet another flawless victory. Does her chance of actually pulling this off increase by every meeting?
It seems that way. It seems like the cards are falling. She's playing the ultimate game of poker, and the river just came down. And she's going to win. She's holding 4 aces. How do you beat her? Because every card that comes down is in her favor. She's doing amazing things, and I don't know how. That's the thing. I don't know how she's doing it. How does she know to pull everybody out of places and put them in other places? How does she know to move? I know she's got the big thing painted on the floor now, but she doesn't have pieces standing on it where she can move stuff around and go, well, I think they're over here. She doesn't have a Master of Whispers. She doesn't have a Varys. Somebody might be feeding her some information, but I can't believe that all the stuff that Littlefinger, Varys, Tyrion even, and everybody else that was doing things for her in the past, that when she doesn't have them, that she has the same modicum of information.
But let me ask you this, IG.
Okay.
Does she not have a Varys? Do you think maybe she has a mole in Daenerys' camp?
And that's the thing. I think she might. And that. I don't think it's Varys,
Who
though.
would it be?
I think and as bad as this sounds, and as much as that's going to make us go from somebody that we've loved since the beginning, I think it's Tyrion.
No, I refuse to believe this.
And that's what's going to happen. And you got to think about this show, Jules. This show has done, they're not going to do that. And yep, they did. They do it all the time. So if they're going to do something to messed up to us, that's the messed up thing that's going to happen.
That would be the ultimate form of messed upness. I do agree. And it made me even think back to this podcast a couple episodes ago, us underestimating Cersei and saying, oh, she doesn't really have a good way of playing chess and she's only thinking right in front of her face. And now, after seeing these 3 episodes, maybe she does know how to play chess. Maybe she knows how to play chess better than all of them at this point.
For the entire series, she's been held back by someone, mostly Tywin. And then last year, the High Septon, or a couple of years ago, the High Septon, and she's finally... I'm sorry, last year. She finally has the opportunity where she can do what she wants. So I think she's never going to be as cunning or as clever as Tyrion will be, or as Littlefinger, but she can make her own choices and she has nobody holding her back. And so she's going for it. So, some of these choices, she is completely going for it, and it's kind of high risk, high reward. She's winning. She's getting, she's knocking it out the park each time. So, I don't think there's a mole so much as, again, she's just going for it. And fortunately for her, these high risk, high reward chances are working out. And she can, the question is, does she slow down or does she just keep going for it? She's won a few times. So does she get kind of, do we see some hubris and her kind of continue and that be her downfall? Or does she take a step back and say, okay, now that we have, it's more of an even playing field. Now let's be a little bit more strategic. Not that they haven't been strategic now, but a lot of it's just kind of it's still brute force. It's just a little bit more calculated.
We now present the CRP's problem solving and friendship building with Tyrion Lannister. Give them something, but it might not be worth anything, but it's a step towards a more productive friendship. Jules, was Dany allowing Jon to take the glass the right call? And was Tyrion right that you have to let him walk away from this with something?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think, because now he kind of owes her one in a sense. And he was right. Why does it matter? You're not doing anything with it. You didn't even know it was here when Tyrion said that. And this does, it kind of gives her that spirit of I've reached out an olive branch. I'm helping you out. And I think this is the first step into building allies. And I think Jon is now seeing, okay, she's willing to work with me. I'm willing to accept that she's going to work with me. And maybe on this trip alone, it's not going to be, okay, we're coming to your save the day with dragons to kill all these White Walkers. But I think it's the beginning of building that trust and that relationship.
And it costs nothing, really.
Right.
It costs her nothing. A little bit of manpower. She's got
like a truck.
She's
going to bring a truck.
No, they brought a truck last week. She's got a whole Dothraki horde that's literally doing nothing right now. They're doing nothing. Go down there with a pickaxe and pick out some dragonstone, use an afternoon. I mean, with the amount of people she brought with her, an afternoon, they'd have all the dragon glass they could ever use.
But they only did bring that little boat.
I was
hope they
going
get
to
it back.
say, how will they get it over there?
Ryan, don't fight in the north or the south. Fight every battle everywhere. Always in your mind, everyone is your enemy. Everyone is your friend. Every possible series of events is all happening at once. Live that way and nothing will surprise you. Anything that happens will be something that you've seen before. Littlefinger crafts a fine piece of lyrical combat for Sansa, which boils down to be ready for anything. Or do you think Sansa could become Littlefinger 2.0?
I don't know that she wants to be Littlefinger 2.0. I think it's hard to gauge what she really wants. Does she want power? Does she just want the North? Does she want to stay in the North? Like, I don't know. Still can't get a read on what she wants. She's been through so much trauma. It's hard to tell where she stands. So I think obviously Littlefinger would like for her to be Littlefinger 2.0, but I don't know if that's a game that she wants to play. It's hard to tell.
You might want Littlefinger add-on because he does love her like he loves cats. So.
Oof.
Maybe he still wants to break off a piece of the redhead.
IG, creepy as fuck, Bran makes his return to Winterfell as the Three-Eye Raven and informs Sansa, oh, by the way, I saw you get raped. I've always had a hard time caring about Bran, so this more monotone emo delivery, has it made the problem with the character even worse?
Right now, yes. He's got to do something. This Three-Eyed Raven story better kick into high gear. So far, the only useful things that we've got on it is a heartbreaking story about Hodor and the truth about Jon Snow. Now, they're important things, and the Hodor one, story impact-wise, hurt more, I guess, or was more impactful, but that's just because Hodor was simple and seemed innocent, so it just kind of really... It's like shooting a dog. It's worse, the dog. You can do whatever you want to the people, don't kill the dog. And that's the same thing with Hodor. He's kind of like a dog. He's loyal and he does what he's told. You just can't mess with him. And we got the R plus L equals J confirmation. And that we all knew, but we got actual confirmation that it was there through Bran. But if Bran doesn't start doing something else, just sitting there with his monotone staring off into the 10,000 yard stare going, yeah, but it's hard to explain. Three-Eyed Raven. But where'd you go? I went to meet the Three-Eyed Raven. But I thought you're the Three-Eyed Raven. I am the Three-Eyed Raven. I told you it's hard to explain. What, dude? Come on.
I like to refer to myself in the third person. It confuses the chicks.
I wanted to use Bran as a punching bag. Something about his delivery, the look on his face. I was having a real adverse reaction to his monotone speaking. I really wanted to punch him in the face.
Okay, and Julie wants to beat up on the crippled kid. Go, Ryan.
Well, Bran's been like a human... He's like a human MacGuffin for the show, and it's unfortunate because I think the character he was not interesting. He was not super interesting in the beginning, and then I think I really started to get more interested in the character as he started to develop into the Three-Eyed Raven, and we started to see him grow. But it's taken a huge step back, and now all we want Bran for is kind of like, okay, well, what plot device, what plot point will he help us see? And that's unfortunate because I think there can be so much more to his character, and yeah, I didn't need him to be crying in tears meeting Sansa, but to be so robotic, and it made no sense also because even the Three-Eyed Raven, he wasn't that boring and robotic and monotone. So there's no like precedence for that. So why does he need to be? It doesn't make any sense. So
it's like being drunk, it just enhances your personality.
Yeah. So I don't get it.
Yeah, when Sansa came running up to him, he didn't even hug her. Like my husband pointed out, his arms aren't broken.
Yeah, they work.
They work. He could hug her back. It was just, he has been drained of every sort of emotion. He's just not there.
How unfortunate for you, Julia, to make it harder for you to beat the hell out of the crippled kid.
Couldn't he have doesn't he have the ability to basically like touch the weirwood tree, touch Sansa, and kind of give her an idea of what's going on, maybe help her understand? I thought that was something. I thought there was precedence for that show earlier in one of the seasons where he could help his sight through somebody else, and maybe some of that's going to happen. So he's going to be like, "No, John's right here. Look." And all of a sudden, there's John. I don't know. Something's got to happen, though, because if this is what we're going to have is Bran sitting out by the tree looking sad, we got to get more out of Bran than that. I mean, I was happy. I was like, ooh, Bran. And then he just kind of laid there like a limp noodle. And I'm like, come on, man. Got to do something.
Also, why are you going to bring up your sister being raped? Like, you're sitting there hanging out, and then he's like, I remember.
I saw everything. You looked so beautiful. Right up until the point when you did devious stuff to you.
There's something called tact.
Bran Stark, the ultimate peeping Tom. And just like that, Julie, Jorah is healed, and Tarly makes good. He gets a win. So what's next for the King of the Friend Zone? Does Jorah rush right back by to his queen's side? And was it nice to see Sam get through this unscathed and get a little bit of a pat on the back by the Maester?
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts here. I know you want to hear them all. So first thing first, yes, Jorah is going to run at top speeds to go find Daenerys because that's where he believes he belongs. And he is going to be really excited to let her know he found that cure that she commanded him to find. And then as far as that, Sam, I'm excited about the bond he made with Jorah. And I think we all know that at some point this is going to come back in some way where they could be on opposite sides possibly. And their friendship that was forged there could help, build a bridge. I'm not sure, but I know certainly that's going to come back into play somehow. And then finally, as far as the Archmaester giving, Sam props, but then some shit work, because he has to punish him for going against his word. I think he's going to find in these materials that the Archmaester said he had to copy. I think that is where he's going to find some important information that he's going to have to get back to Jon about, maybe how to deal with White Walkers or anything of the sort, because they said they're very old, they're falling apart. I think he's going to find something in there.
I was watching that scene, and I was hoping that Archmaester 2 Chainz was going to like award him with a link. He was going to be like, hey, bro, good job. Here's your first Maester link. Because, that's what they're there to do. As they, he's saying there's Maesters here with many healing links. They can't do what you did. So doesn't he deserve at least one healing link at this point?
You were looking for the grayscale merit badge to be handed out at the end of the ceremony?
Yeah, I was. And Archmaester 2 Chainz is just like, you thought you were going to get off.
I love Archmaester 2 Chainz.
Where are the rest of the Lannisters? The Rock was taken, but the fleet was burned, and the Unsullied are now stranded. How badly does this set back Daenerys' cause?
Significantly, if she was ready to get on Drogon and storm King's Landing herself earlier in the episode. So what's she going to do when she finds out the Unsullied are stranded and the Lannisters have Highgarden? It was amazing feat. So it makes you think like, what was the purpose of taking how much of an oversight was that of Tyrion's, like that he thought Casterly Rock was that important that they would fight for it almost out of pride. And I think that was it was as if Jaime and Cersei read Tyrion and read it beautifully, and they that's a huge victory. This is a bigger victory than last week, and it puts them strategically in a great spot in Highgarden. Obviously I'm assuming they use that to pay off their debts. They strand the Unsullied, so it really puts them all at a strategic advantage at this point. And again, I'm just shocked I'm shocked that, heading into the season, I just thought my thought, and this is where the show's so great, it's subverting expectations. My thought is, okay, well, there's going to be a war between Dany and Cersei, and she's going to win pretty quickly and easily, and then they go fight the White Walkers, and that's not at all what's happening this season. 3 episodes in, and Cersei seems to have an advantage.
What if Egg is right and Tyrion gave false information?
Something's going on there where Cersei's not this smart to stay that far ahead of Tyrion. So something's going on there where she's getting some sort of information from somewhere. They don't know him that well. They don't know his mind that well. And if you put their intellects together, neither one of them are half as smart as Tyrion are.
The moves aren't that clever. Like if you go to the first part, Euron. Okay, she needs a navy, obviously, and I think I'd like to think Euron kind of just stumbled on them. I don't think he had intended on I'm going to intercept. Because they didn't even have this conversation about what he was going to bring, what gift he was going to bring. I think he got really lucky. I think he intended on bringing Ilaria, but I don't think he realized how easy it was going to be. So I think in that way, they got lucky in that. And then in this case, I think it was maybe they saw the fleet coming, or who knows, but I don't think it's that far beyond. I mean, even if they didn't predict or anticipate that Tyrion would send the Unsullied to Casterly Rock, I think they realized Highgarden is much more important for us than Casterly Rock is. So I strategically, I don't even think it mattered that the Unsullied were on their way. I think taking Highgarden was pressing and was more important than anything for them, again, strategically and financially. So I think that those two moves kind of appear to be, the work of a mastermind, a military mastermind, but really they were one was luck, and the other one again it had to happen, and they kind of lucked out as well.
The part you're missing, Ryan, is that not only did the Unsullied go and take a thing that ended up not being worth much, but that iron fleet of Eurons ended up there at Casterly Rock burning their ships, so they have to march back if they're going to come back. So the first two, you're absolutely right. That could have just been happy coincidence. That third one, they had to get information to know to send the fleet up there just to burn the Unsullied's boats. So, two times you can get lucky. That third time, someone's cheating. And someone's cheating.
But again, if you know that a fleet is heading towards Casterly Rock, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. It's not. But
that's the thing, is they shouldn't have known. Where would they have gotten that information?
I mean, a fisherman on a boat who sees a fleet of 10,000.
Does he have a raven? Does he have a raven?
We're stretching here, Ryan.
News travels real. Well, when convenient, news travels really fast in Westeros.
People get around fast. Look at Euron. He made 1,000 ships in 20 minutes.
No, it's a fair point. I do I get it. I think I could see the argument for there being a mole, but I just have I guess we'll see. But I hope it's not Tyrion. That would kill me, which means it'll probably be Tyrion.
Wherever they're going to hit you the hardest, it's always going to be in the groin, and you know it's coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. IG, Jamie pulling his best Robb Stark impersonation zigged when they thought he would zag, and he shows up at Highgarden, and he sacks it. How do you feel about the show having such a long memory to call all the way back to season 1 with that move?
Oh, that was really good, and I love it. I love that you get so many things that call back to earlier seasons, that you can look back and see how all of this mattered. It mattered then. It matters now. They see where the brilliant strategic planning of the opposing general, where that plan can come back into effect for you later when you can reenact what somebody else did. I mean, because that's the reality of how things work. If you see somebody else did something better, learn to do it that way. Apple Computers is built on that completely. Steve Jobs saw somebody else doing it better and went and stole all their technology. Now Apple's one of the most profitable companies in the world. That's how things work. See somebody else do it, and you do it just like that. And the fact that he recognizes it and says it, it's like, yeah, Rob did this to me like years ago, and now I'm doing it. It's pretty awesome. He recognizes how awesome it is. Just very cool.
Your sister has done things that I was incapable of imagining, and that was my prize mistake, a failure of imagination. Jules, Lady Olenna, and Jamie have a painfully honest chat about Cersei. Did she tell him anything he didn't know already? Or is he just too deep at this point?
At this point, she didn't tell him anything he didn't know. I think she knows. He knows that Cersei's changing. He knows she does evil things and has done and will continue to do evil things to maintain power and control. And I think it even concerns him, the relationship she has with Euron to win this war. So I don't think that he, for 1 second, was enlightened by anything Lady Olenna had to say at this point. Because he is head deep in love with her. So he's pretty much willing to do anything, and it's pretty obvious to everyone around.
Jaime gives her the easy out by giving her poison, and she lets him know on the way out the door. I'd hate to die like your son, clawing at his neck, foam and bile spilling out of his mouth, his eyes blood red, his skin purple. Must have been horrible for you as a king's guard, as a father. It was horrible enough for me. A shocking scene. Not at all what I intended. I've never seen the poison work before. Tell Cersei I want her to know it was me. Ryan, the Queen of Thorns, drop the mic moment. Your thoughts on the last scene, the episode, and your rating.
I thought that was a great scene. It was a great send-off for her. She's obviously one of my favorite characters in the show, and with good reason. Both the material she's given and the actress just plays it. She plays it so well. I was sad because I'm never gonna get my Lyanna and Queen of Thorns moment. So that was a little disappointing for me. But I think again it was a great send-off for her. I'm glad that she didn't have like a brutal, gross, disgusting death, and that she didn't suffer, and that she kind of got, as she has the whole show, she got the last word, and she won the battle of kind of wits. And I mean she lived a long life. She outlived everybody in her family. So I think that scene works really well, and you see the conflict in Jaime and him. It's a weird arc that Jaime's going through, where he almost becomes a good person, good guy, but then he's kind of pulled back by Cersei, and you can see the conflict in him throughout. I remember feeling the same way with the Blackfish last season. So I think they both played it really well. I think this episode was really strong. I think there's a lot going on, and I think it really, again, the first 3 episodes of the season are still kind of stage setters, but I think this one had so much good little nuggets throughout, and some really great moments that I would definitely give this episode easily a 9. On a good day I might give it a 9.5. I think it was a really strong episode. My only complaint about the season so far is things are happening at such a crazy pace that it just doesn't quite feel like the same show. So I think in hindsight is 2020, and maybe when the season ends I might have different thoughts on how all these episodes are. So I think the only negative for me is just everything's at a blistering pace, which is just not the show I'm used to. But I think there's just a lot of great stuff in this episode, and yeah, definitely a 9, maybe 9.5.
I love this episode. This is so far this is my favorite episode of the season. Lady Olenna, she went out exactly like you would expect her to go out. Of course, she's going to drop a mic on you because she's like, I got nothing else left and I'm going to make it sting. And I kind of thought actually that Jaime's gut reaction might be to kill her. Like not with just the poison, but whip out his sword and kill her, because I could see that being kind of like, I can't believe you just told me you killed my son. But I think he was in too much shock to even deal with it. It was like all of this all of a sudden came clear. Tyrion's not the one who killed. I don't think Jaime ever thought it to begin with, but he has verified proof that Tyrion is not the one who killed Joffrey. I know he's going to bring this back to Cersei, but the question is, Cersei, what will she do with that information? I believe she just is going to choose to ignore it. Because that doesn't sort of follow suit with what her hatred towards Tyrion. So I think it's not even going to matter. And I think that could be sort of the turning point for Jaime if Cersei's hatred towards him just continues to fester for no reason at this point. So for me, I definitely say that this episode, there was a lot of great things about this episode. I really enjoyed the meeting with Daenerys and Jon Snow, and I thought, the way it all played out was really good. I liked that he didn't bend the knee to her. I think that was an important thing. But again, much like last week's episode, the ending on this episode killed it for me. I do agree with Ryan. It is moving very fast. People are dying and getting cut out that you're I really wasn't ready for Lady Olenna to die yet. I wasn't ready for that, but I understand why it's necessary. Got to put the pieces in place. So for me, this episode, I'm going to give it about a 9.2.
Going into the season, it looked like a slam dunk for Daenerys. It was a slaughter. It was a rout. It's not going to get any better. All right, so we're down the Dornish, no big deal. We still got the oh, fuck. Our fleet, well, and just like that, Daenerys' best laid plans are starting to lay there smoldering like the Sept in the middle of King's Landing. Shout out to the guy that got hit by the bell. And I'm starting to think Cersei and Jaime may be able to pull this off. Some great performances in the show, especially by Lena Headey, who plays Cersei, and Lady Olenna herself, Diana Rigg. It was a painful goodbye, but some great moves by Team Lannister. And it's possible Cersei and Jaime may come out on top of this, and they very well may put Tyrion into check if they haven't already. The next move is definitely vital. Definitely can't wait for next week. I give the Queen's Justice a solid 9.
Yeah, for me, this is going to go on a Game of Thrones level as Game of Thrones scoring. So give me a little break here, but I'm going to give it an 8.3. It just... There was a lot of things happening. It's a good episode, but on a Game of Thrones scale, it was lacking a little bit. While the moves were important and the moves were impactful, they were gone through too quickly. Not like what Ryan's saying, moving at a blistering pace. I would have liked to have seen more of the sacking of Highgarden. I would have liked to have seen, stretch that out. I wanted to see some fight out of the Tyrells. I mean, especially since they're supposed to help with the Dornish in holding King's Landing. They should be a force to be reckoned with, and they just kind of march in and take it in an afternoon. I mean, it pushed me a little too hard. So I had a couple of problems with it. I did enjoy everything with Jon and Dany, and it just seemed like it worked. I'm hoping that leads into a more fruitful relationship, and I'm hoping that somehow, because Bran said in this episode, and the one thing that stuck with me is I have to talk to Jon. I'm hoping that information that Bran has is able to get to Jon. I hope that isn't just held until next season. It needs to happen this season at least. Hopefully in the next couple episodes. There's just a lot going on, and it's right now the whole thing is in such a mess for the people that we all hope to be the end game victors. I mean, and I'm sure it's going to end up that way, but great episode still. And like I said in previous episodes, like an 8 in here is a 10 on just about anything else. So it's a skewed thing. But, Cynic Radio Podcast, we're going to call this an 8.75. It is another good episode, and if you haven't watched it, please go out and do so. If you have watched this, please send us some questions. Send us your comments. We'd be glad to go over them, talk about them with you. Check us out on Facebook at Cynic Radio, and we'll be around. This episode, we're having a great time, and we'll be back with next week's episode. But right now, here comes Really. So now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for Really. I'd explain it. Just listen. You'll get it.
My Really this week, and I know we've all suffered through it at one point or another, are drivers who sit in the left-hand lane doing at or below the speed limit with no intention of passing anyone. Now, I've just returned from the West Coast where the highway gods saw fit to give them as many as 6 lanes. That's right, 6 lanes. And you still have people sitting in the passing lane texting or doing their makeup or talking to their numbnuts co-pilot, and statistics show that this type of behavior actually causes more accidents than speeding. The residents of the SoCal area are very kind, gentle, personable people until they get out on the freeway, and then they all turn into Mad Max, and this might be what's to blame. So for the love of everything that's holy, and I'm speaking to you, surfer dude listening to Justin Timberlake, yeah, I saw ya. Or you valley girl putting on your makeup, or you older gentleman in a raincoat looking at a map, it's 2017, get a goddamn GPS. I mean, who the hell are you, the Gordon's fisherman? Pass, and then move back out of the passing lane. I promise you it'll be there when you need to go back. So for all you drivers having Sunday brunch in the left-hand lane, really?
Really, for me, this week goes out to upstanding citizen of Estherwood, Louisiana, and peace officer Wayne Welsh. Wayne Welsh has had a history of posting severely racist stuff on his Facebook. Now, I understand it's Facebook. Don't take it so seriously. But here's the thing, folks. When you are in a public position and it looks like you're posting severely racist things, you're going to get called out. people are going to look at it. People are going to wonder what's going on. And especially police officers in today's society are looked at in such a way because of everything that has been going on across the nation with police officers. You really got to think about what you put up there. I'm not saying you can't think what you want to think. I'm not thought police. But here's the thing. Do you have to put it out for literally anyone to look at? Time to grow up, learn where it is appropriate to say things and where it is appropriate to not say things. Wayne Walsh. Really?
Oh my God, you guys. My really this week, well, it's like a really within a really. This is a doozy. So 39-year-old Kenneth Mazanares killed his wife on board an Alaskan cruise ship last week. And he was quoted as saying the reason he did it was his wife would not stop laughing at him. Okay, well, first off, thank God I'm not married to Kenneth Mazanares because this dude would have killed me a long time ago. But second, the part of this story, as incredible as it was when I read the article in the paper about it, was Suzanne Ragsdale of Houston, who was on board the ship when the murder was committed, was interviewed about her thoughts. And this, my friends, is where the second really comes in. Suzanne over here had the nerve to be quoted as saying that the murder investigation on board took too long. I mean, like 8 hours. And her kids were really bored. Your kids are really bored. Well, Christy Manzanares is really dead. But here is the topper. This woman then is quoted as saying, I was hoping we would be cruise people. We may not be after this. We had to reschedule our whale watching expedition because we weren't allowed to leave the ship. Are you fucking serious, lady? Are you fucking serious? Because can we just discuss this? Who would even utter those words, first of all? I was hoping we would be cruise people. But yeah, bitch, sorry. Sorry that Christy's murder inconvenienced you and your bored family. I hope this woman gets dragged by her friends and family who read her quoted in this article, because that is the epitome of really.
And that's going to do it for episode 42 of the Cynic Radio Podcast. I'm Igrahi. With me has been my co-host and the man who had to throw out his microwave so it would stop setting off the metal plate in his head, Cynic. Also joining us has been Jules and Ryan George. You can find him over at thejimwits.com. Send us your comments, questions, concerns, and any bell protection related items you can send, because we need to help Cynic out. He's been triggered lately. To cynicradio@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/cynicradio. Look for us on the internet at cynicradio.com, and find us on Twitter at cynicradio. Also, head on over as quick as you can to tpublic.com and search for Cynic, C-I-N-I-K, and go buy yourself your very own Cynic Radio Podcast gear. You can get mugs, you can get cups, you can get your very own t-shirts and sweatshirts for the low, low prices that TeePublic sells them for. You're not going to be disappointed. We've got some ourselves. They're great quality stuff, and you're really going to enjoy it. Keep sending everybody our way. We're going to bring the conversation to you. We've always got interesting things to say, and we can't wait to talk to each and every one of you. And until next time, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at cynicradio.com. Available for download on iTunes.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.